able to see the screen, the Excel spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll just quickly go over all the exercises. All right. Give you an idea of how to solve them. I will not write the complete formula because that will defeat the whole purpose. All right. So in this case, first exercise says write a formula for column F. And we need to use the following rule to decide whether to hold or sell a security. So sell if the security, current price of the security is 20% or more below the average of 52-week, low and high. Otherwise, hold. All right. Now, if I was to do this, as I said last time, in the beginning, it's a good idea to basically do the problem step by step. So first thing I will do is write down a formula to calculate the average of 52-week low and high. And I will do that in column G. All right, so let's write in column G the average price that we are going to be calculating and using. All right. And of course, I'm sure all of you know the average price will be now the average or average of these two numbers that are in column D and column E. All right. So everybody agrees this should be D2 plus E2 divided by 2 because we have two numbers, so that should give us the average. So basically we have the average, all right? So now what you can do is, now you can write an if formula back in this one. And your if formula is going to be now you want to test if the current price is 20% or more below the average. All right. So basically, average is 17.515. All right. So let us see what will be the price that is 20% or more below. What you can do is you can say, all right, instead of calculating that, I can look at the price which is 80% of the average price. And then I can compare the current price of the commodity with the 80%. And that way I can make the decision whether I should be selling it or holding it, the security. All right. Or if you want, you can actually do another thing. Let's see. Okay. You can do another thing in column H where you can write down the 20% or more below the average of that we have calculated. So basically what I can do here is I can write down 80% of this price. So that will be 0.80 times G2. So now I can actually directly compare this number with this number and write down an if formula to decide whether I should be holding it or selling it. And of course, I can drag them down. So basically, you will get those. Similarly, you can drag it down. Sometimes on my machine, the dragging doesn't work nicely. Okay, now we got it. All right. So basically, now all you need to do is to compare the numbers in column H with the numbers in column C to write your if formula that you can write it here. So what I am suggesting here is to break the problem into smaller parts and then solve it. This actually makes a problem look a little easier. And also it reduces the chances of making any error. All right, so does that help?
Yeah, that helps. I didn't know we could make additional columns.
Yeah,
I
you
thought we should just
certainly,
make
you can
one.
always do that, all right?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So this should, kind of breaking it down the problem into different components and then trying to solve each component and then putting them back together. That is how we should be actually doing it, all right? Very good, all right. Okay, it says all right. Okay, any other question, or let's go to the second one, just that we are talking, all right? So that I can outline the solution and then you guys can take a look at it. Okay, so we are to calculate the final score for each student using the following guideline, all right? So the final score is the average of best 3 quizzes if the attendance is 65% or better. Otherwise, the score is average of all 4 quizzes, all right? So basically, again, what I will do is, if I was to solve it, I will break down the problem into different parts, all right? So let's look at first part, which says the average of best 3 quizzes, all right? So we have a total of 4 quizzes, and we need to pick the best 3. So there are 2 ways of doing it. One is you can pick the top 3 using the large function that I think we introduced, or we used it in the more Excel assignment. In this particular case, an easier solution is to pick the smallest score or the lowest number and take the sum of 4 quizzes and from there subtract the smallest one. So that will give you the sum of best 3 quizzes. And if you divide that by 3, that will give you the average. So let us do that calculation in this column G. So what I will do here is, I will say first I want to add up all the quizzes. So basically that will be sum of this one, comma this one, comma this one, and comma and this one, all right? So basically what I have done is I have calculated the sum of all the quizzes. And then what I will do is, from this sum, I will subtract the smallest quiz. And for that, I will use the min function, which Excel has. And that tells you how to find the smallest value in a series of numbers. So basically, we'll say, all right, min function. And we need to use the min function from values B2 to E2. All right. So now if you look at this sum minus min, basically what you are going to be seeing is a total of top 3 quizzes. All right. But we need to take the average. So what I will do is I will divide this number by 3, and that should give me the average. So basically the average is 86.66. All right. So now we can go to the next step of the problem. It says if the attendance is 65% or better, we take the average of best 3 scores. Otherwise, the average is otherwise the score is average of all 4 quizzes. All right. So basically now you can write down a very simple formula here with if statement, and you check the attendance. So attendance is given in F2. So if F2 is better than, let's say, or equal to 65, we get condition is holding true. Then basically the answer is going to come from this place because we already have the average of top 3 quizzes. Otherwise, the answer is going to be the average of all the 4 quizzes. All right, so that's how you can solve this problem. And of course, you can always write one single formula without creating any, extra column. But as I said earlier, if you look at the problem in terms of smaller steps, it becomes a little easier to do and chances of making mistakes basically reduce. All right, so everybody happy with this?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so what we'll do is we will move on to the next one. You can complete these exercises. I've given you an idea. All right. In this case, basically what we are trying to do is to write formulas in blue boxes to answer questions or calculate the required amount. All right. So this exercise is based on using built-in if functions. All right. So before we do that, let us look at built-in if functions. Once you look at them, then you know how to do these exercises. All right. So let's stop sharing this particular one, and we will share something different now. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we will share. All right, can you see these slides now? Hello, can I get an answer?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, all right, very good. So we talked about, okay, let's go over here. This is what we talked about in the last class, all right? So that was basically nesting of if statements. Now what we will do is we will talk about built-in if functions. So first thing we will talk about is what we call as a count if function. So this function counts the number of cells within a range that satisfy the given condition. For example, if this is the formula we have, equal to count if, cell range is A1 to A5, and the condition is greater than 3. So what this formula will do is it will count the number of cells in the range of A1 to A5 that have a value greater than 3. All right. Here are some examples of count if function. In this case, count if A1 to A50, that means we are looking at the range of cells A1 to A50. And in that range of cells, we are checking whether there are cells or what is the number of cells that do not have a value equal to 5.95. Remember last time when we talked about comparison operators, this sign, less than and more than, that put together was meant as a sign of not being equal. So basically what we are doing here in this formula is we are saying, all right, this is the range over which we want to do the counting, and this is the condition. So COUNTIF function essentially has two components or two arguments. The first argument is the range, and the second argument is the condition. All right. So if you go back to this exercise of big box where we are trying to see how many TVs were sold by Billy. So basically what we are going to be doing is we are going to be counting how many times Billy sold the TV. All right, and that is where we will be using COUNTIF or some COUNTIF function actually, but maybe some variation of this. So let's look at some more examples here. So next one is COUNTIF. Again, we are specifying the range D1 to D20, and the condition is D5. So basically, in this case, we are saying how many times whatever is in cell D5 appears in this range of cells. All right. So if I wanted to count how many times Billy appears in the range of cells for our big box exercise, what I will do is I will specify the range of cells from C2 to C31 because that is where the names are there. And then in that range of cells, I will specify a cell where I have a value of Billy. For example, I could specify cell C4. So in that case, I will get how many times Billy is mentioned in that particular column. All right. And these examples are similar to what we just now saw, but they have different conditions. For example, let's look at this one. It returns the count of cells in the range D1 to D20, where a value equal to the value present in cell B1 is present. All right. So basically, in this case, we are specifying two conditions. Value should be B1 and it should be equal to B1. Okay. Or you could have simply written B1 and that would have basically done the trick too. All right. So this one is again testing for a value greater than A5. So essentially what the COUNTIF function does is that it allows you to do counting over a range of cells by specifying a certain condition. So an example could be like this. So if you look at your Oakland cafeteria and that's the menu that they have, and you may want to see how many items are priced less than $2.99. So basically you will specify this as your range of cells. And then the second argument will be less than $2.99. And that will give you how many items are priced less than $2.99. Or second question may be how many are priced less than the price of a small pizza. In that case, you can write down, for example, the small pizza price is over here. So what we can do is we can write down COUNTIF, parenthesis begins, we give this range of cells as the first argument, and the second argument could be simply the cell number D, it is D, and small pizza, so D14. And that will give you the count of all the cells that have price equal to small pizza. If you want to use the less than, then basically we just saw in the previous slide how to specify less than or equal to. So we can do that and solve the problem. So basically, you can use this COUNTIF function to do the counting based on certain conditions. Now, in many cases, you don't want to do the counting, you basically want to do summing, or you want to add numbers. So for that, we have a function called SUMIF. So in the SUMIF function, you specify the range of cells that satisfy the given condition or given criterion. So basically, you have a range of cells over which you want to check whether the criterion is satisfied or not. And then you have a second range of cells over which the summation is done. So this is a little different from the COUNTIF. In this case, we have two ranges of cells that are involved. So let's look at some example here. So let's look at this example. In this example, the cells A2 to A6. So from A2 to A6, these cells have expense type here. How much you spend for grocery, how much you spend for gas and things like that. And in this column B, over this range of cells, you have the amounts that you have spent for different items. So suppose somebody asks you a question from this Excel spreadsheet, can you figure out how much was spent for a particular item? For example, let us say how much money was spent on gas. So basically what you need to do is you need to locate in this column all the cells where gas appears. So cell number 3 and cell number 6. And then go to the corresponding locations in column B where we have the amounts, read those numbers and add them. So if you were to do this problem, writing or using sum if formula, this is how the formula is going to look like. So you are specifying your if function with the condition that you're going to be doing summation here. Then you are specifying the first range of cells over which you are going to look for your criteria. In this case, the criteria is look for a cell entry with gas. And then you look over the range of cells B2 to B6. And wherever in this range of cells you find gas, you basically look at the corresponding cell in range B and add them up. So this is what will happen. So in this case, basically it will add up this one and it will add up this one. All right. The second range of cells is kind of optional. And if you don't use it, then the summation takes place over the same range of cells. So let's look at this formula, for example, equal to sum if B2 to B6. So we have specified the range of cells. We have specified the criteria less than 9099, and there is no second range of cells. That means if I give this formula, I am telling Excel to add up all those numbers from this range of cell B2 to B6, where the numbers in the cells are less than 90.99. So basically, it will check for those numbers and it will add them up. So in this case, if I was to run this formula, it will add up this one, it will add up this one, it will add up this one, and it will add up this one. It will not add up the rent number because that number is more than this one. All right. So that's how one can use the sum if function. So very similar to count if function, except that you're doing summation. All right. So here is an example to show you how we will use this. All right. So suppose we have this housing sales data. So there are houses from Oakland, Macomb, and Wayne County, let us say. All right. And then in column B, we have the number of days in the market these houses have been there. And then in column C, we have listed their selling price. So suppose this is the data that you have, and let's see what are the questions we will like to answer using this data. So you might ask a question, how many houses from Oakland County are in the list? So basically we are going to answer this question using the count if formula. So basically, we can answer this question by writing this formula equal to count if. Sorry, just a minute, okay? Okay, so we can write this formula equal to count if. This is the range of cells where the counties are listed. And then we are saying, check if the cell contains the word Oakland. So we can specify the actual text here. Sometimes you may not want to specify the text. In that case, you can write the same formula in this fashion, equal to count if A2 to A12, comma A2. Why A2? Because in cell A2, we do have, if you go back, over here, in cell A2, we have Oakland. So basically, in this case, what we are doing is we are saying, look for those cells which have similar text that appears in cell A2. Okay, so basically we are counting how many houses from Oakland County are in the list. Okay, let's see what other question we can answer. What is the average selling price of Oakland County houses? So sorry, I will call you in a minute, okay? So let's see, what is the average selling price of Oakland County houses? So in this case, we do need to find out what are the houses that are from Oakland County, what are their respective selling prices, we need to add them, and then we need to divide that sum by the number of houses that are in the Oakland County. So let's look at the formula that we will be writing for something like this. So equal to get the average, obviously we need to add up all the houses from Oakland County. So we need to make use of sum if function, all right? So with sum if, range of cells where we want to check for Oakland is same as we had used earlier, A2 to A12. So in that range of cells, we are looking for Oakland or houses from Oakland. And then the range of cells over which the summation is to be done, that range is from column C, that is where the house prices are. So basically, numerator over here will add up all the selling prices of the houses that are in Oakland County. And we have already calculated over here how many houses are there from Oakland County. So if we take this total and divide it by the number of Oakland County houses, that will give us the average. So that is how we can get the average selling price. All right. We can use the similar idea to answer this question, what is the average selling price of houses sold within 60 days? So in this case, the condition is different. So basically, the range of cells over which we are going to be checking for this condition is going to be B2 to B11, less than 60 days. That is what we are putting in. And of course, we are going to be doing the summation. So basically, that's the same range, C2 to C11. And then we will divide this by the count. But in this case, the count will be of the houses that are less than 60 days in the market. So basically, that should give you an idea of how to use sum if functions and how to use count if function. Any question from anybody? Is there any question?
No.
Okay, all right. All right, so let's look at the next one. Now, the examples that we just looked at, or the functions or the Excel functions that we looked at, basically allowed us to check for a single condition. But there are situations where you may want to check for multiple conditions. So there are formulas for that. So Excel also allows counting and summing with multiple conditions. And you can do that through count if S. So basically, if you add an extra S at the end of count if, basically you are telling Excel that you want to check for multiple conditions. And same thing with sum if you add an extra S, you are saying you are looking for multiple conditions. All right. And the idea is that with multiple conditions, you can look for patterns in data for better understanding of certain decision-making situations, as well as for answering slightly more complex questions. So let's look at some examples here. So the formula for count if S for multiple count conditions is range 1, criterion 1, range 2, criterion 2. And in fact, you can have multiple ranges and multiple criteria. All right. So here is an example. So here is a list of students. In the quiz 1, these are their scores. In the quiz 2, these are their scores. And in the quiz 3, these are their scores. Suppose the question that is asked to you is, find the number of students who scored at least 60 points in quiz 1, more than 65 in quiz 2, and at least 70 in quiz 3. So basically, we have three conditions that we are trying to look for. So in this case, we will be using count ifs, IFS, all right? And let us say that what is the first condition? The first condition is 60 points in quiz 1. So quiz 1 range of values is from B2 to B6. So basically, that is what we have, B2 to B6, comma. Now we specify what is the condition. So condition is scored at least 60 points. That means the score should be equal to 60 or greater than 60. So that is the condition we have specified here. So that is the first part. Then more than 65 in quiz 2. So quiz 2 range is C2 to C6. So basically we specify the range. And the condition is more than 65. So we specify that, comma, at least 17 quiz 3. So basically for quiz 3, the range is D2 to D6. And we are saying at least 70, that means greater than or equal to 70. So if we plug in this formula, or if we write this formula will tell us the number of students who scored at least 60 points in quiz 1, more than 65 in quiz 2, and at least 70 in quiz 3. So if you look at count IFS or this example, you can see that we are able to answer more complex questions compared to the example that we looked at earlier. And similar ideas hold true for sum if function. Say, for example, we have this small set of data entries in an Excel spreadsheet. Here is the year-wise information. Here is the amount spent on print ads, radio ads, direct mail, and that's the revenue being generated. So if somebody says, let's look at the sum formula first. So sum IFS, that is with multiple ranges. So you have a sum range, criterion range 1, and then criteria 1, criteria 2, criteria 3, etc. That means you are going to be summing only over one single range, but your criteria ranges could be multiple. So let's understand this by looking at this example. So the question that is being posed is, what is the revenue when print ad expenditure is below 2,500? Radio ad expenditure is below 3,000, and the direct mail expenditure is more than 600. So basically, we are trying to answer a question from the revenue column, but to answer that question, we need to look at column B for print ad, column C for radio ad, and column D for direct mail. So if you look at what kind of formula we will be using here, so that is equal to sum IFS. That means we are saying we are going to be doing summation, but we are going to be using multiple conditions. All right. So first argument is E2 to E7. That is the range over which the summation will be carried out. So that is, in this particular case, this is the range over which the summation is going to be carried out. All right. And then we specify what are the conditions. All right. So first condition is print ad expenditure is below 2,500. Where is the range of print ad values? That is from B2 to B7. So we say, all right, let's check over this range. And this is the condition, less than 2,500. So that takes care of this part of the question. Then it says radio ad expenditure below 3,000. So basically, we look over this particular range, C2 to C7, and condition is less than 3,000. And similarly, for the direct mail, D2 to D7, condition is greater than 600. So this is the formula. If we were to use, we will be answering this question. So again, what this shows is that you can perform summation using multiple conditions with the Excel function sum IFS. All right. So this is actually similar to we just now I showed you, so you can actually try that. And let's go to this housing data, and let's look at a different question here. What is the average price of houses sold in Macomb County by New Century? So what we have is a slightly different sheet here. So this is a county-wide information. These are the real estate companies, they're listing. Number of days in the market, that's the selling price. All right. So basically, we are asking the question, average price of houses sold in Macomb County. So we got to look for houses from this column. But those houses that were sold by New Century, and we look for New Century in this column. And then we do the addition. So if you were to write a formula for this, you will see it will be sum IFSD. So basically saying multiple conditions. D2 to D11, that is the range over which the summation will be carried out. What are the conditions? The first condition is that look over this range, A2 to A11, and it should be only for those houses that are from Macomb County. So basically that is the part we are specifying. Then we look for this range and look for selling company New Century here. So basically that is what we are specifying. All right. So Excel will filter out houses from Macomb County sold by New Century, and it will give you a total of their selling prices. But we are interested in the average. So what we need to do is we need to divide this by the number of such houses that are from Macomb County and are sold by New Century. So we do that by using the count ifs formula, count IFS, A2 to A11, Macomb, and this one to New Century. And that should give us the answer. So with that, I think you know now how to use count and sum if functions with single as well as with multiple conditions. So basically, these examples that I have shown you in the slides are very similar to what you have in your homework or in your assignment. So I suggest that you go over these examples again and then try to do your exercises. And anytime you run into any issue, you can always send me an email, or on Tuesday for those in the in-person class meeting, our TA will be there and you can also ask him for any help or any clarification. All right, so with that, I will like to stop here unless you guys have some questions that you want me to answer. So are there any questions?
I think I'm good, Professor.
All right, very good.
Yeah, I think I'm good too.
Okay. Now somebody is asking me a question. Do you have to come to college on Tuesday only if you have questions for the TA? No, actually we don't take attendance. So we really don't, say that you have to be there. Basically, the idea is that as long as you are comfortable, you are able to understand the material, you are able to do your exercises, and you are able to get help by either coming to the class or by email or by online meeting with the TA or with me, we are fine. So we don't really take attendance. So if you don't show up, we assume that you are good. You don't need any extra help, and that's fine. I think the session has been recorded, I assume. And if it is recorded, certainly then I will post it on our Moodle page. All right. Very good. Any other comment, any other question, anything? I'm looking at the chat, so anything you want to ask through the chat, that's fine too. Yeah. All right. Somebody did say have a nice day, so let me repeat that. Thanks for joining and have a nice day. Thank you.